there, and welcome to the rewrap for Friday. All the best bits from the Mike Hosking breakfast on News Talk ZB in a sillier package. I am Glenn ZB. We'll mark the week because it's Friday, and that's what we do on Fridays. Another poll and more scepticism from my hosts. Friends, they got together last night for a reunion. It wasn't what I was expecting. And 60 Minutes has got the big scoop on New Zealand's relationship with China. But before any of that, speaking of China, let's go to the Wuhan lab, see how things are going there.
The start of the week is some new information through US intelligence. There were those who got ill and hospitalised in Wuhan way earlier than previously had been declared. We still don't know what they were hospitalised with, but it's worth a question or two, and so it has turned out to be. Dr. Fauci said several weeks ago at an event that was not widely covered that he still didn't know to any level of satisfaction where COVID originated from, and he was happy with any investigation that tried to dig that answer up, and further, he hadn't ruled out that it came from the lab. That bit was the smoking gun of sorts, because the lab is a two-pronged thing. Did it come from the lab as opposed to the wild? The more conspiratorial aspect of that, if it came from the lab, was it deliberately let out? The Republicans by week's end now want Fauci sacked because he gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to the lab but swears it was for genuine research, not looking into what they call gain of function. The funding was eventually halted anyway. The Chinese media, by the way, have gone off at all of this. Fauci is now public enemy number one. All this eventually led to the president saying we need another look. The irony of all of this, as I pointed out earlier on in the week, is that Trump was already here about a year ago. The real question is how on earth has it taken us so long to get to this point? Why have we been so fantastically complacent in wanting to get to the bottom of this? The WHO report was a farce, but then it was always going to be farcical. It is the result of a world that refuses to call out those who aren't up to much, and the WHO fits that category. Their report was either woeful or a jack-up. Either way, it's answered nothing, and it's taken the ensuing months of silence and vacuum to finally get a few people wound up enough to get some proper wheels turning. The Australians deserve credit and respect for at least starting this, but what a price they've had to pay, eh? And what a crime to have to let them pay it as the world has twiddled its thumbs. This is a crisis the likes of which we have never seen, and we've seemed happy to not get to the bottom of it or potentially hold anybody to account. At least at last, in that respect, the week ends on a more positive note than it started.
Yeah, so this has basically become the Hosks. It's certainly got his attention, the old Wuhan lab theory. He's right into it now. Oh boy. Basically all he's been able to talk about all week. I think he's talked about the Wuhan lab theory more than he's talked about house prices this week, and that's saying something. Let's mark the week, shall we? Because it's Friday.
Time now to mark the week. Little piece of news and current events. It's as popular as $8 per kilo on the farm. Fonterra 9. A midpoint we never thought we would see again. Demand for a product globally that is literally saving us. God bless the farmer. Liam Lawson 8. 1 in Monaco. Got robbed through a technicality, but another New Zealander, along with Scott Dixon's pole, of course, flying the flag in the most patriotic of ways this week. Speaking of sport, Phil Mickelson 9. Sports story of the week, turning back the clock, most watched final round in years, mad uncontrolled crowds, it's why we love sport. The Phoenix crowd, actually, 8. A reminder of 1, the value of crowds, and 2, the value of being at home. Wuhan 7, because it ain't over. Biden now wants a look. The WHO report finally has been seen for what it was. The fact we've let this thing drag is a crime in and of itself. New cars, 7. Good news, bad news story really. Demand through the roof, that's good. Supply at its lowest point ever, that's bad. House profits, 8. Never made more money when you sell a place in this country, and they wonder why the market hasn't turned yet. Adrian Orr's prediction, along with the budgets, that price growth on houses is going to virtually 0, 3. The worry is these people are supposed to know what they're talking about. Call me if it ever happens the way they say it will. Spending, 8. Oh, we spent like drunks according to the statistics this week. So much so, in fact, it may they think have saved us from dropping into recession. The Australian economy, 7.
G'day, Mark. Good on you.
Yes, figures this week suggest it's back to pre-COVID levels. You can't argue with that amount of success if it's true. Richard Branson, 7. If you don't jab your population, he said, you will be left behind. It's the only thing that matters. Why don't we listen to him? Our vaccine rollout. 2. Slow, delayed. Still they pretend it's all good. Sleepyhead's Waikato dreams alive. 7. Vision and solving a problem at the same time. More, please. Axe teacher idea on pay. 8. Given what we know about our performance in the classroom, who can argue with it? And yet they do. A recipe for going nowhere fast, and that's before you get to the white privilege nonsense. Long-term benefit numbers. 2. That's the social crime of the age. People rotting, helpless and hopeless. for extended periods, and the government answer is more money. The Waikato DHB won. Don't worry, they said, we'll have it sorted by the weekend. What we forgot to ask was, which weekend? Super Rugby 8? So, 10 out of 10. I mean, is that a competition or an exposure of the fact not a lot has changed since we last met? MIQ 2, excuse me, snap inspections that lead to 100 recommendations a year on, and still we can't get it together. Mind you, we could be Melbourne, but as being as useless as Melbourne and comparing useless places with useless places, a useful comparison? I don't think so. And that's our week. Copies on the website. And by the way, if you print this off, cut a small hole in the middle, it can be used to look at supermoons and total eclipses.
Please don't look at total eclipses through Mark the Week. That was a joke. You can look at... That's the good thing about, blood red supermoons or whatever the hell it was. You don't need special glasses or anything. Don't need a pinhole camera. You can just look at it. It's night time. Another poll and more strange results.
This is the TV1 poll. A couple of things out of the poll. Labor down 3, Nats up 2, ACT up 1, Greens down 1. So the government's down, the opposition is up. You can say that broadly. No budget bounce. That's a theme that they might be worried about, the government. But it is in contrast to what TV3 had a week ago, thus confirming in our minds, I think, that really you can't trust polls at the moment. They could say anything. I mean, TV3 had Labor at 52%. I thought that was farcical. TV1 would confirm it is farcical. And the margin of error is so great between the two polls, I don't know how seriously you can take it. It's the wrong time of the political cycle to take any real polling seriously, I think, is what I have concluded.
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Why do they do polls when it's nowhere near an election? How interested are we at how popular people are when we can't do anything about it? I've distracted myself with that thought now. Did you watch Friends last night?
Trending now on the Mike Hosking Breakfast.
So, did you see it? What did you make of it? How come TV2 didn't seem to, have any level of promotion around what must be one of the most hyped reunions in the history of modern reunions? I found out yesterday it was on TV2. I thought, what? How come I haven't heard that? Anyway, mixed reviews. One of the big moments was the question as to whether there were any off-screen romances. A bit of awkwardness there.
David?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the
first season.
Yeah, the first season, I had a major crush on Jen. I think we both, at some point, we were both crushing hard on each other, but it was like two ships passing because one of us was always in a relationship. So, and we never crossed that boundary. We respected that, but we both bullshit.
From The Independent, pointless and occasionally eerie, but for the most part, a total joy. From The Decider, Friends reunion proves that the cast should never, ever do a scripted revival.
Which is exactly what I thought. I was under the impression that's what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be some kind of special, or there'd be several episodes of new Friends with the old cast. And I probably would have been interested in that. I don't want to just see them sitting around admitting that they had crushes on each other. Weird. No interest in that. I've heard bits of the trailer for the 60 Minutes with Mike Hosking in it. That sounds more interesting.
A small point yesterday over the kerfuffle of the Channel 9 60 Minutes story. And people we went nuts. We're too small village in this country. We don't get it. News Hub all over it. TV1 all over it. The Drive Show on this station all over it. Going, it's all over the top. What's a trailer? Let me ask you the simple question. This is Broadcasting 101. What's a trailer or a promo designed to do? Get you talking.
You have to say the guy's voice was very funny.
Did it get you talking? Yes, it did. Therefore, was it successful? Yes, it was. Will more people watch it because of its success? Yes, they will. Game, set, and match to Channel 9.
I was talking about your voice, by the way.
News is next.
I wasn't, of course. I keep forgetting, and then every time I'm in Australia, which of course hasn't been recently at all, but back in the old days, I would be reminded of how far behind their news media, well, broadcasting generally in Australia seems to be, but particularly the news. But it's things like you've got to talk in a weird voice when you're on the radio or on TV. I think we've left that behind here, haven't we? And also, all the women have to be sensationally good looking to be on TV, if they're even allowed on it, which they aren't half the time. So look, everybody wears a suit all the time. It's really weird. The ladies who do the weather are dressed completely inappropriately. They're sort of they're living in a 30-year time bubble with that kind of, and I think it's because of the, everything's still regulated there. The government owns all the TV and radio, basically. Funny old business. Anyway, I'm Glenn ZB. I'm pretty happy I'm here in New Zealand today. Thank you for being with me. I'm even happier about that, and we'll all get together and do it again on Monday.